With all the challenges crop producers have faced this year, more will inevitably come, namely crop disease. And with the amount of moisture we've seen this year, something producers and agronomists might want to consider is the potential for disease in fields. And that's what Market Journal's Bill Dodd has his eye on this week. Bill, take it away.
Thanks, Troy. Now, there are many diseases that are favored by the wet and soggy conditions we've seen this year, and on top of that, heat and humidity can also play the role of a catalyst in many crop diseases, and we've definitely seen plenty of both of those in the state this year as well. For example, southern rust has been confirmed in several states to the south and east of the Cornhusker State, and while the disease is at relatively low levels so far, having only been found in some southern counties in Nebraska, conditions for its onset have been prevalent, and experts are suggesting that producers in the southern portion of Nebraska should be especially mindful and thoroughly monitoring their fields. While southern rust may not always need treatment, scouting fields and remaining vigilant are critical this time of year. It may take some time sitting in complementary weather conditions for the disease to spread and have a meaningful impact on your crop. However, early detection can save you headaches in the long run. Furthermore, as UNL Extension plant pathologist Tamra Jackson-Ziems points out, the misdiagnosis of southern rust can be an easy mistake to make.
This is really difficult this year. There is so much more common rust than what we've had in the past because of the cool, wet conditions we've had leading up until now. The problem is telling southern rust apart from common rust. Southern rust is the one that we're much more concerned about because most of our hybrids are susceptible to that. Not all of them, though. And so what we would recommend is people look for rusty spores that are on the surface of the leaf, mainly on the top surface, and if they are orange to tan in color and small, that could be southern rust. In contrast, common rust is more of a cinnamon brown or brick red, and it can produce spores on both the top and the bottom surface. Keep in mind we have a lot of resources to help, pictures and descriptions, but also we have the UNL Plant and Pest Diagnostic Clinic that can give you a diagnosis very quickly on what that is, and that could help you make a spray decision.
While most hybrids are susceptible to southern rust, it is important for producers to familiarize themselves with hybrid types and anticipate reaction to the disease by reviewing seed company ratings. Furthermore, while foliar fungicides can contain the disease, most fungicides will protect the leaves for future infections for up to 28 days. Which makes the application time very critical. Applying fungicide before the disease is fully developed may lead to loss of the product's efficiency, and on the other hand, treating too early could force you to reapply later if spreading worsens. Now, as we've seen a wide range of planting dates throughout Nebraska this year, we're starting to see various stages of corn development. Later planted fields that are still in early maturity have the highest potential for yield loss if the disease develops. Now, it can take several days or weeks to get traction in a field once identified in an area. Now, while treatment may not be necessary at first, it may become necessary later, making scouting your fields very critical in containing this particular disease. Now, another disease that we're seeing more of this year due to the amount of moisture we've had is Physoderma brown spot. This is yet another disease that could be mistaken for southern rust as well as other crop diseases. Now, telltale signs of this particular disease include small lesions that are round or oblong with yellowish or brown color. Additionally, similar colorations may develop on leaves, stalks, and husks, while young lesions may resemble those caused by southern rust or other rust diseases. Closer inspection would be prudent and advisable.
So it's very alarming when you first see it, and many people might mistake it for southern rust, but keep in mind rust spores will rub off on your fingers. Physoderma will not, and often those lesions are in bands across the leaf, and where they cross the midrib, they're dark black or dark purple in color, and they can even be down on the leaf sheath or the stalk, and if you get a lot of it on the stalk, they can infect around a node and make it brittle, so wind or when you push on them might make them break off.
This particular disease is really considered of mild importance in the Midwest. On that note, many major seed companies tend not to give rise to resistance in their hybrids in this particular region. For the time being, some fungicides are labeled for Physoderma brown spot. While the disease is rarely much of a threat to yield totals and normally doesn't require treatment, it should be noted that accurate identification is important in avoiding unnecessary treatment due to misdiagnosis. Now lastly, one disease that we want to mention that isn't particularly giving Nebraska any trouble at the moment, though, is tar spot. Many producers have taken notice of the damage that it's caused in recent years in some of our neighboring states. While there are no confirmed cases of the disease in Nebraska as of now, Extension educators point out the importance of staying ahead of the curve and being proactive in scouting fields for this particular disease. As of now, it's believed the pathogen for this particular disease is spread via wind and rainwater. As with many corn-related diseases, tar spot does have some doppelgangers, namely common and southern rust. At the end of the growing season, both fungi switch from producing orange-red spores to black. Now, it's important to keep in mind that rust spores come through the epidermis and the spores can be easily scraped away with a fingernail.
That we want to make sure people understand we do not have tar spot yet in Nebraska, but we want people to watch for it. Many people have heard about this already in social media and some of our agricultural trade magazines, where many of our neighbors to the east have been talking about this disease, and it's caused quite a bit of damage in the last couple of years. Tar spot looks exactly like what you might imagine. It looks like small black dots of tar or black paint that have been splattered on the leaf. And so if you see something like that, make sure that it doesn't rub off, because it could be an insect or bird droppings. That's very common too. And if it doesn't rub off and it's raised, please send a sample to the UNL Plant and Pest Diagnostic Clinic so we can get a look at it, or give us a call so that we can make sure that it's not tar spot.
As always, producers and agronomists are encouraged to collect and submit samples, and any samples collected can be sent to the UNL Plant and Pest Diagnostic Clinic for assistance in identifying these and any other diseases or pests. If you're unsure of the diagnosis, you can find more information on how to submit samples at the PPDC site at cropwatch.unl.edu/plant disease/UNL-diagnostic-clinic-Lincoln. And Troy, that's what I got my eye on this week. I'll send it back to you.